What you know, alibis? Welcome to another episode of Pretty Lies and Alibis. I'm Gigi. It's Thursday, October 16th. Hope you guys are having a good day so far. I have to say, you guys liked the jail to prison episode yesterday. Like I said, it's something I've done in the past, but I've always wanted to redo it a bit. I've got a lot more to add. So guess what? We're going to do another one today. I appreciate all of the emails and the inboxes saying, hey, that was a great episode. Helps me to know what you like so I can keep doing it. I'm here to please. Tomorrow, we're going to go through the commissary list. A lot of you guys have reached out saying, I love that kind of stuff. And also an average monthly menu for the Florida Department of Corrections. And we'll see what else we can dig up. We're going to start off with some prison slang of the day. Backdoor parole. That means to die in prison. And for a cooking hack, taffy can be made by kneading non-dairy creamer with pre-sweetened Kool-Aid. You add droplets of water and you keep working that mix until you have a taffy consistency. I'm going to have some more prison hacks at the very end of the episode. So my contact has access to legal shows on TV. All of the true crime networks are available in the common room, and they do watch true crime. So if in Florida they have access to true crime networks, they very well may know who Donna is because her trial was heavily covered, as we know. The biggest thing working against Donna is that she is convicted of killing a father of two young children. Any crime that affects children is an enhancer on the inside to other inmates. It's just one of the unforgivables. Prison is described by my contact as a society outside of society. She said, in prison, there are criminals and there are convicts. Most of the prisoners are convicts, but a large portion are criminals, and they hold on to that criminal behavior and have no intention of changing. They will challenge staff, the rules, and that compromises the safety of the facility at times. And the bad part is the restrictions and the confinements of prison are largely based on the actions of the criminals. My contact is in with a couple of very high-profile criminals. The Turpin mother, that's the case where the children were all chained to the beds and really skinny and being abused. And also Diane Downs, who has been her cellmate. So she definitely has experience being around people who are very high profile in the true crime world. Their case is known far and wide. Some people will befriend Donna just for the novelty of being around a high profile inmate. But as a high-profile inmate, it can be scary because everybody knows your name and then they assume they know you. There are people who will love to talk out loud about Donna and her case, hoping that she will attempt to jump into the conversation. They will try to bait her. One of the hardest things my contact experienced was the absolute culture shock of her life when adjusting to prison life. There's not one thing that functions as it does on the outside. And the difference between prison and jail is like night and day. Prison has its own currency system, its own rules. The social statuses are not like they are on the outside. And those are all things that take people a very long time to acclimate to once they start their sentence in prison. But no matter how long you were sitting in jail awaiting your trial, going to prison is like starting all over. So what was her experience like arriving to prison? She emailed me and said once we were off the freeway and the bus started making turns, the tension on the bus was obvious. Half of the occupants would be home within a few years, but the other half wouldn't see home for 20 years and some never. Someone yelled, "Welcome to prison." She was one of the last to be left off the bus, but she said she really didn't want to leave the bus because she knew the moment she stepped off, she was stepping into a new world that she would never be able to leave. They lined the prisoners up against the wall and removed all of their cuffs and shackles. This made her feel vulnerable and very naked. She wanted those back on. Everybody was marched to receiving. They were told to turn and face the wall. They were then sent to a holding cell where they were given a muumuu dress, a pair of socks, and flip-flops. She was told to undo her hair and take off all of her clothes. Any personal items you have on your person are taken. They will ask you if you have anything to surrender. From there, they are put in a circle naked, and then they are strip searched in front of everybody. She was told to face the officer, lean over, shake out your hair, lift both breasts to be sure nothing is hidden. You lift up to show your underarms, You fold down your ears so they can see behind. You even lift your body rolls. You turn away from the officer, you bend over and spread them, and you cough 3 times. After that, they were allowed to dress. An inmate clerk had advice for her within an hour of arriving at prison. Don't hook up with girls who aren't yours, and don't do drugs you can't afford. From there, they're called out individually for processing. She saw the items taken from her that she had since the day of her initial arrest. But at that point, those things that used to be very dear to her seemed very unfamiliar. She was asked if she wanted to donate the items or have the prison destroy them. She didn't care, so they tossed the stuff in the trash can, and she said she watched as a ring she had worn for years fall deeper into the trash can, and it was very symbolic for her. It was almost like watching her life. She had her picture taken for her prison ID, and then she had interviews with a registered nurse and then a psych tech. From there, they watched an orientation video about the prison, and she said this is the slowest day ever. They were given boxed lunches, and then you go to an interview, and that interview determines where you're going to be housed. My contact asked for segregation, but she was denied. She does not like interacting much with other inmates just to avoid the drama. But she was told unless there was a security issue, she would be in general population. They were given a bedroll and then their toiletries put into a line and then taken to the receiving yard. Once she got to her cell, she was in there with 7 other women. Can you imagine? The first night, there were 2 very loud alarms for fistfights in cells, and someone also shattered a window. She said she was on edge already. It was frightening, and it was a big reality that this would be the rest of her life. She was very shaken by the violence around her that she saw in the first few weeks of her time in prison. She said prison is full of chaos and anger at times. Some of the women are just wild and uncivilized. She found peace by just staying in her cell and did not socialize much with others for the first few years she was in prison. To be able to go into general population, you had to be cleared by medical, dental, and mental health. But once you're cleared, they call it being sent over the wall, meaning to general population. Even with good health, it can sometimes take 6 to 8 weeks where she is to be cleared to go over the wall. She knew people that waited for months, and she really didn't care because she knew she was in for life, and at this point, nothing is a rush. When she was given her permanent cell number, she went in, and her roommate was cooking something that smelled horrible, and it just made her nauseous. The look on her face told a story, and her cellmate made very clear, this is my cell. Get used to it. The cellmate told her to put her stuff down and that she would tell her how she runs her room. Now, before she was put in that cell, she was told by staff if her cellmate was not a good fit, she could fill out a request to move, which only happens on the weekends, but also there can be a bit of a stigma attached to saying, I don't like this person. Some of these women have been in for decades. They have very close-knit groups. So the minute you say, I don't like my cellmate, you may have issues with their friends who are loyal to them. So for the most part, you just suck it up and deal with it. Her cellmate was very specific of the rules of the room, like keep your hair pulled up because I don't like when hair gets all over things. She was told to keep her area clean at all times, scrub the toilet after every use, and if she did not do a courtesy flush or keep the toilet clean, her cellmate said she would only allow her to use the common restroom in the day room. Her cellmate expected her to shower once a day and to scrub that shower after each use, and then she was also told what sink in the room she could use. She was told if she tattled about anything that happened in that cell, she would leave bruised, bloody, and limping. She was informed this cell has a system and you are not here to disrupt the flow of the room. The inmate told her she was the law in that cell. The first phone privilege she got was exciting, but all of a sudden she said she was too scared to call because she did not know what she was going to say to her loved ones. At the end of the day, after head count and everybody is locked in their cell, they would be brought mail if there was any for them. Any hope for a letter or picture kept her awake to wait and see if she got any. Most of her friends stopped communicating as soon as she was arrested, and those who were left pretty much did the same after sentencing. She recently told me that every picture is a shock to the system. Her nieces and nephews are growing, her parents are getting older, and you are missing every second of it. Using the phone before she got a tablet was a privilege. The problem was that the lines are long, and sometimes you might wait for an hour, but you might get called to your cell for head count. You might get called because you have a meal. It doesn't matter how long you waited. You don't get to jump the line when it's time again for everybody to line up to use the phone. You just wait and cross your fingers you actually make it to the phone. Seasoned inmates are excellent at talking to you and at the same time making mental notes of the new inmate's strengths and weaknesses. The strengths and weaknesses are often exploited to the benefit of other inmates. And every action in prison usually has another motive that the newbie is completely unaware of. She said she tells all new inmates to sit back for a month or two, keep to yourself, and just watch people. People will reveal their true selves. I've seen more new intakes trust the wrong inmate, and sometimes within hours of arriving to prison, they are now the drug mule for that inmate, or they may have to share commissary, or do the inmate's laundry, or get family on the outside to put money on their books. She said the number one cause of drama in prison that she sees is debt, usually revolving around drugs or canteen. There are days when passing time becomes nearly unbearable. Each second passes with excruciating slowness. And as time ticks by, she said it can almost be heard like a slow faucet leak. You hear the drip, drip, drip. And there's no task that you do that takes long enough. She said at times the skin on your body feels heavy and there's this desire to shed it almost like a winter's coat. The sounds all around feel amplified with the constant drip of the seconds going by. The TV blaring in the background. Somebody's yelling. Somebody's crying. Somebody's having a mental health episode. People are talking loudly. Some people are singing. It all merges together like a roar that sounds like an urban street scene. It takes concentration to decipher words spoken to you from 3 feet away sometimes. People in prison are superior at acting, and they do not need an acting coach. She said in Hollywood, agents search high and low for people who can cry on cue, but she says, I dare you to find an inmate who cannot. She also said, if you can seek, you will find, so be careful what you seek. Just some random things she had in her last email. The reason you see inmates who are shackled at the ankles wearing several layers of socks is to keep the cuffs from digging into your skin. If you don't have toilet paper, an older book with a lot of miles on it has softer paper, and you can guess the rest. She recommends to check the expiration dates on your food. It's not like it's going to get replaced if it's out of date, but you're just ensuring you don't get sick from old milk or food. Every prisoner represents multiple victims and many lives lost. This includes the living victims and also the family members of the inmates. In prison, no one but yourself or a truly dysfunctional person will make your needs a priority, or worst of all, somebody with nefarious intentions. The life in prison and the death penalty are considered pretty much one and the same to inmates. The toll on families who have to travel to visit is very hard because there's a lot of hoops to jump through. Sometimes it takes hours for your family to drive to get to the visitation. They have to go through all the red tape of being searched. Sometimes you have to take a bus to be transported to the facility with other family members, and then you have to wait for the actual visitation. Some families sacrifice a whole weekend for an hour of visitation. But just because your family made the time and the effort and spent money to visit you doesn't guarantee you're going to have that visit. You could get in trouble right before your scheduled visitation. That can be taken away in an instant. Also, if there is a staff shortage or if the facility is put on a lockdown, that can affect whether or not you actually get your visit that day. What is some cellmate etiquette? Never touch anything that doesn't belong to you. Courtesy flushing is essential. You have no option but to accept it if somebody takes your stuff. Bunkies share their body odor as well as their drug-induced philosophy and knowledge of criminal activities. She has now learned the easiest stores to steal from, the best ways to hide drugs on the outside, and pretty much every other criminal activity you could imagine. There are groups to help prisoners reach what is termed insight. This is the realization of your crime, which is the nexus of your crime. What led you there, meaning the core factors, who all was hurt by your actions. And in her group, they even consider people down to the ones who read the news articles. They teach you what you need to do is rehabilitate and make amends. The group's efforts are hampered by an inmate's obsession with survival, addiction, anger, personal loss, and grief. She said the public fails to realize that to a prisoner, the greater victim, no matter what the crime, is their own families. They know their loss, their grief, their suffering, their sacrifices. She said the victims' families are not in touch with us then or now, so it's easy to overlook their pain and suffering and their lasting hurt. This is why insight groups help to broaden a prisoner's idea of who is the actual victim and who they hurt. People get away with a lot of things in prison, and the reason is the commanding officers don't really intervene unless somebody is getting hurt. She said the last thing Donna is going to want to do is snitch. It only takes one time and then you're branded. If you snitched in jail, it somehow follows you to prison hundreds of miles away, and that is one label you don't want to follow you. But what did Donna do? Snitched a couple of times about some attacks on the stand, so that could be something she has to deal with in prison. And we're going to end this with a few more prison hacks. Maxi pads have a ton of uses. You can sweep the floors when you don't have a broom. They can be used as shoe inserts, and you can make your pillows more comfortable. If you don't have money to buy foundation through the commissary, you can make your own. You mix baby powder, lotion, and instant coffee grinds together. You customize based on the color you need. For lipstick, one way is to mix crayons and petroleum jelly. For eyeshadow, they will mix a colored pencil with chalk and baby powder, and there's your eyeshadow. For me, it is so interesting to get this firsthand look from somebody who is a lifer, a first-time offender, because what she has seen over the years really gives a lot of insight into what really happens in prison versus what you see on a show about prison or any kind of a real-life drama. These very little things that become part of your everyday life that you would never deal with on the outside are the hardest parts of prison. It's not the big dramas, although it does happen. So tomorrow we'll do another episode, but that is it for today. Hope you guys have a good rest of your afternoon, and we will see you soon.